morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you for joining us today on the Upside Up podcast. My name is Jeremy Neas, and I'm joined as always by my partner of this crazy show, Garrett Horn. How are you, sir?
Boy, howdy, I'm good, man.
It's good to see you, buddy. I never see you anywhere.
Yeah, you're everywhere I am.
That's true.
We should record ourselves like all the time, and then just
no one would listen.
No one listens anyway.
Good point. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about sports again, so bear with us. But this time we're not so much going to talk about Alabama and Auburn. I'm sure they'll come up, but not as much as just sports in general and how they affect society. And there have been some really cool things that have happened lately, so we can talk about that. We're going to have the Clash of the Wits, as always, so you can look forward to that if you care. And then I'm going to bring a thought to the table, and we're going to talk about some first impressions. I guess how I would title it. We're going to answer listener questions. Got quite a few of those this week. And let's see, what else do we have? Then we got the best advice in the world. And hopefully that you're enjoying that. That's one of my favorite segments. So I look forward to doing that every time and help out people because you know that's what we do. Yeah.
They respect me.
I think we've really helped people. I mean, just the other day, someone came up to me and told me that our advice about letting someone know that you're interested in them really helped them, and none of that was true. Okay, so we're gonna be.
I was like, I doubt that's true.
No, we're gonna talk about sports. So I guess first of all, this is the thing that kind of made me start to think about this, was the fact that sports in America this year in 2016 have been absolutely awesome. I texted you about this earlier in the week, and Gable a couple hours later texted me about it. And you know, it wasn't prompted by media, at least mine wasn't. I don't know if yours was, but just the fact that, let's recap, shall we? The Super Bowl, it was a little iffy. I was going for the Panthers. It was kind of a one-sided game, at least in my memory. It was probably better than it was in my mind, but
yeah, it was a close game. Remember, Carolina had a chance to win at the end.
Yeah. But,
yeah, it was kind of dominated by the Broncos. Yeah. But it was still a close game. But for that to be the worst, this is a pretty good year of sports.
Yeah, no kidding. Then I guess next we had the
Alabama-Clemson game before that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Alabama-Clemson, that was a great game. Obviously, the best two teams in the nation playing against each other. It was a really well-competed game. Very good overall. My team didn't win, but you know it was great. I think both teams played very well, and both deserved to win the game, in my opinion. So, national championship game. Then we had the Super Bowl. Then we go to March Madness, and my Villanova Wildcats hit that three to win the championship.
That was insane.
That was the only time I've ever jumped up and screamed at the Alexander's house. So that was that got me off the couch. But that was great. One of my all-time favorite memories was that. That was so cool.
Well, and the whole tournament was awesome.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. The whole tournament was so good. MTSU going the distance.
My boy Giddy Potts.
Yeah, so
from Athens High School.
It was a great tournament overall. I wish I could have seen more of it, but definitely a very good tournament that year, and one of the best championship games we've ever seen. So that was fantastic. Then I guess the next championship was the finals. And
NBA finals.
People know about that. People who weren't here behind the scenes of how we record the show, we actually recorded our first episode where I told the Steven story. And when we finished, I turned on the game on my iPad, and we watched LeBron block the Andre Iguodala's layup. And
I loved it. I was pulling for the Cavs hard.
I was going for the Warriors, and so I was kind of disappointed. But overall, it was a great series going down 3-1, and the Cavs coming back to win it. It was special for the city of Cleveland, special for LeBron. I'm not a LeBron fan, but I can acknowledge game. So,
what's your game?
Podcasting? No, but that was a really great series. A great Game 7 as well. It was competitive the whole way. So, and then what got us thinking about this was the World Series. I'm not a baseball fan. I didn't watch any of the World Series that I can remember.
What?
But I kept an eye on it. I didn't watch it live, but I kept an eye on it. And that championship game, one of the greatest World Series games ever. It was a great Game 7. And we witnessed history, you know, with the way the Cubs won and how long it's been since they've won. And so many Americans, I found out, were Cubs fans. You know, I didn't know that there were so many Cubs fans around.
They're bandwagoners.
some of them are not. I mean,
yes.
There are a lot of legitimate Cubs fans that have really enjoyed this championship.
Yeah.
So,
well, man, I'm sorry you didn't get to watch that much. I didn't watch every game, but it was great baseball. And I'm not a huge baseball fan. I watch like the playoffs and maybe a couple games a year. But this was great stuff. I mean, I rank this series up there with any of the sporting events I've watched in my life. And, like,
wow.
The intensity of that Game 7 was, I mean, you had people talking about that game that had probably never watched a baseball game. But it was so intense because you could feel, because, I mean, Cleveland, it's not like the Cubs were playing the Yankees. Okay,
yeah.
The Yankees have won 27 World Series.
Yeah.
They were playing the Indians. And the Indians, okay, it hasn't been 108 years, but it's been like 68 years.
Yeah.
Now the Cubs won. They've gone the longest without winning a World Series.
Yeah.
So you could just feel the intensity in that stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just awesome. And then it goes into 10 innings. You just couldn't ask for a better.
Even a rain delay.
That made me mad, but that's another story.
we can talk about that on our own time. But yeah, great series, great year of sports, and I doubt we'll ever experience such competitive sporting and storylines, drama that we've had. I mean, all of those had drama in them, except for maybe the national championship game in football. There wasn't a whole lot of drama in that game, but it was a very well played game. So that got us thinking, why don't we talk about sports this week and just kind of its impact. And also what got us thinking about that is Auburn and Alabama have a chance this year to make history. Auburn is not out of the running for the playoff as of now. After this Saturday they may be, but we may be on a collision course for the Iron Bowl, and that's great for both teams. It's great for the exposure, and Alabama looks like the best team in the nation right now, but never know. You never know.
I think they're the best team in the nation, Jeremy.
They may not be the best team come the Saturday after Thanksgiving. You never know. No, but I'm being a homer, but they do. Auburn does have a legitimate chance to win the game. And I think that will be exciting. We may have to address that after the Iron Bowl, but
we need to have some kind of friendly wager without not involving money. I'm just kidding.
I doubt we'll do that. But so it's exciting. I think it's a great time to be watching sports. So, but so what makes sports so entertaining? We'll kind of transition into the part where we're going to talk about some fan stories, how sports have influenced fans, made a difference in people's lives, and I went to Google and waitbutwhy.com came up answering this question. So I'll just kind of give a couple bullet points off of this article. Reason sports are so entertaining is there's high drama, which that's pretty obvious. It's fun to watch greatness, and that one I have a little bit of a disagreement with because I have trouble watching Alabama because they're so good. That's part of the reason I hate them so much. Like they've been so good over the past.
But you don't
years.
like watching like the Patriots.
I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm a Patriots.
You didn't like watching the Warriors last year.
I did enjoy watching the Warriors, but that's because I liked Steph Curry before Steph Curry was a household name.
Yeah.
But that's the reason I don't like. That's one of the reasons I don't like LeBron. Is everyone sings his praises and it grinds on people's nerves.
Well, but even if you don't want the greatness, you want like David versus Goliath type matchups where you have like a small team.
Yeah.
Like especially in this tournament, they play Kentucky, Duke.
Yeah.
We respect that Kentucky, Duke's great. It would be so cool if that little team that never wins anything rises up and beats them.
That's why I'm usually the underdog.
Yeah.
I usually go for the underdog. I'm not a favorite type person. That's why I'm not a Patriots fan, and the list goes on. But so it is fun to watch greatness. I guess there's a caveat to that, is that the underdog makes it even that much more exciting. It's aesthetically pleasing. This is a huge appeal of many of the Olympic sports, and it's part of the reason it's fun to watch. Person as smooth and athletically blessed as LeBron James play. Here's LeBron again.
See, I don't.
I think
see that.
I see beauty in the motion of the sport and how controlled they are. LeBron James is a very smooth player just on the basketball court, but there are athletes all over the world that are like that, so I can understand that one. Here's one. It taps into our creepy side that wants to sit in the ancient Roman Colosseum and watch people fight to the death.
I strongly disagree with that one. I strongly disagree with that one, just to be clear. I mean, I don't like watching players get hurt. at all. I mean, I like what I mean. A part of me does like watching like a big hit, but I want the hit to be clean. That's why I like the targeting.
And I want both players to get up.
Right, and I don't like when players get hurt at all. I mean, even the teams I'm pulling against, I might joke around and say, "Okay, you'll feel better tomorrow." Right. But it's not like I like him laying there hurting. No, I don't agree with that one.
What about Cam Newton? What if Cam Newton's on the ground and he's hurting?
I still probably wouldn't like it, even though I would dislike it a lot less than most other players.
Wow. All right. Sports bond you to other people. On a micro level, it brings family and friends together. And that's
see that one.
Yeah, that's something that I've definitely experienced. I've kind of gotten Caleb into Auburn football, and he enjoys. Just last night we were watching LSU and Alabama, and he was getting into it. You know, he doesn't like Alabama, not as much as I don't like them, but he doesn't like Alabama, so we were bonding over that. And then on a macro level, it says it gives the greater community another thing to bond over. So maybe like the city of Chicago right now.
Yes.
So
we might get into this later, but did you see that when they had the parade, it was like the 7th largest gathering of humans in history.
Really, I didn't know
in
that.
one place. That's
awesome.
Crazy. I don't know what would be bigger. I was trying to think. I didn't read the list, but I was like, man.
Wow, that's interesting. Caleb, would you mind looking that up for us, and let's just get an example of what might be bigger? I'm curious. I'd like to know what would be a bigger one, but we'll check back in on that in a little bit. Let's see. Sports can give two people who would otherwise be horribly awkward together something to talk about.
That's true.
I can definitely see that. Water cooler talk, that type of thing at work. So
I see that at work because I'm not the most outgoing person. You might find that hard to believe, but I am kind of shy around people that I don't know.
I can be the same.
But I can talk to anybody about sports. Even sports I don't care about that much. I can relate to competitive spirit, stuff like that.
Yeah. And for those listeners out there they're going on forever about sports.
Get over it.
Yeah. No, these things apply to other things. Just sports is something that people can bond over, and maybe it's more so guys than girls in day-to-day culture. But
this show's run by 3 guys, so
we're going to talk about sports. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, just people at church. After church, Nathan came up to me after church, and we were talking about Auburn football and what happened this week. And so I wouldn't necessarily go up and talk to Nathan about.
You don't like Nathan?
I love Nathan, but I wouldn't necessarily go up and talk to him about something else if it wasn't football. Yeah. So it helps you get to know people, and that's a great thing. So we'd have to find something else to talk about, mowing the grass or something. I don't know. All right, sports gives an escape from life. That's a big one. When I get home from school, oftentimes I'll listen to Gus Malzahn's press conference, that kind of thing. So I can definitely relate to that. And that's about all that I see here on this article. Again, that's on waitbutwhy.com, and it's about why we enjoy sports so much and why they're so popular, if you want to check that out. But pretty well done article, I would say. I agree with your disagreeing about the Roman Coliseum.
Yeah, but generally it's pretty good. I have often wondered about okay, I understand all of that article saying as far as why we like sports, but just psychologically sometimes I'm like when I'm watching Alabama, I'm sitting here and I'm putting my heart and soul into what these guys do, and I have no control over what happens, but I can't help it. They have to win.
I know. I know exactly what you're saying. My little brother, when Auburn lost the national championship in 2013, cries. He had no control over what happened in that game. Yet he's crying because of it, and I completely understand.
And then when they lose, why does it bother me 2 days later? It's I didn't do anything to feel bad, but I feel bad because they lost. It's psychological or something, but I can't help it.
The reason it is I think it's what it's talking about. It makes you feel a part of something, and you feel a part of Alabama football. I feel a part of Auburn football, and so when these teams play and our team loses, our team win, it gives us those emotions, and I think that is interesting. I thought the same thing. I've been watching Auburn football before, and I'm almost shaking with nerves and excitement and stuff. I'm I have no control over what's about to happen. So, there you go. Let's see. We've got the update here that Caleb looked up for us.
These are the top 10 largest human gatherings
according
to Fox News.
So there's one in India, a pilgrimage in India, 30 million people. Iraq, a festival, 17 million people. Funeral in India.
For who?
CN. I don't know.
Good luck.
Yeah, I don't know. Look it up yourself, I guess. But World Youth Day in 1995, 5 million people. So that's about the same as the Cubs World Series celebration.
That's a drastic drop from 30 million, the first one.
Yeah, that was number 6 was
Wow.
World Youth Day. But so anyway, thank you for looking that up, Caleb. But you can check out that article if you choose. So we wanted to transition a little bit and talk about some fan stories that we've both heard due to the Cubs World Series and all that kind of stuff. This is really cool stuff to me. These are people who have been lifelong Cubs fans, waiting 100. Well, I guess most of them not 100 years, but they haven't won in 108 years. Waiting their entire life to watch this team win, still being the fan of the team, and these awesome stories come out, and I'll share the one I heard. You've got a couple, Garrett, but I was listening on the radio on my way home from school that day, and Tim Kirkshin was on ESPN radio on the Dan Le Batard show, I think. And
that show was awful.
I don't enjoy it either, but this segment for some reason caught my attention, and he was talking about how he got back to the hotel at 2:30 in the morning, and there was a Cubs fan in the hotel wearing a Cubs shirt, and he was crying, sitting in the lobby, and he was like, "Hey, are you okay?" He said, "Yeah, I just talked to my 90-year-old dad after the World Series was over, lifelong Cubs fans, and they were just on the phone crying together, tears of joy." I mean, look, you can say that's obsession or whatever, but I can sympathize with that to an extent. If Auburn went 108 years without that, and I was blessed to live in the time where Auburn finally won a championship, I can see how that would bring tears of joy in an earthly standpoint, at least. So
the way I would relate to it is if Alabama made the Final Four in basketball.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge Alabama basketball fan. I'm unusual in that I like Alabama football and basketball the same amount. And we are a frustrating basketball program, to say the least.
Yeah.
If we ever got to the Final Four, we've never done it. We've been playing over 100 years, and we've never made the Final Four.
that'd be cool.
I wouldn't cry, but I would. I can relate to what the Cubs fans are feeling.
Yeah, right. So what's one that you have?
Well, I have a couple. One is just a simple. It just puts into perspective like how much it means to them. But I saw a 94-year-old World War II veteran, man who fought in World War II.
That's awesome.
I can't imagine some of the things he saw, and this Cubs victory. He had to be handed a box of tissues because he was crying tears of joy.
That's awesome.
And, I mean, a World War II vet.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of those guys, those are the toughest guys around. And he's been waiting his whole life. I mean, to see it.
That's awesome.
Another thing I saw that I can also relate to is there's a wall in Wrigley Field. And when the Cubs won, Cubs fans rushed to that wall and they wrote down the names of their deceased relatives who had never gotten to see the Cubs win the World Series, and
That's
they wrote on it.
That's pretty special.
And I have people in my life that, like my aunt, who helped me become an Alabama fan.
Right.
She didn't get to see one more national championship before she died, but just I wish she could see right now. Because when I was growing up with her, Alabama was pretty bad, but we were still huge fans. We talk about it all the time.
Oh yeah.
But now, that Alabama is the best program currently. I would love for her to be able to see that.
Yeah.
So I relate to that. So
that's pretty awesome. How many national championships have y'all won since she died?
She saw the 2009 one. She died like 2 months after that.
Okay.
So 2011, 12, and 14. So 3.
That's pretty special. I can't relate to that, but one day I might be able to. So. Then there was you may have seen this, but there was a video of an 81-year-old Cubs fan that went viral of him watching The Last Out. That's just awesome. That was a great video. If you haven't seen that, it takes a small Google search and that one pops up. That one's been pretty popular. So, lastly, here we want to kind of talk about some feel-good stories and talk about some memories of sports that changed our lives, or maybe not changed our lives, but had a big impact. But I'm just going to run through a couple right quick. You may have heard of this one at 2013 Nebraska spring game. They allowed a sick fan to score a touchdown. I think it was a little kid.
I do remember that.
That's something he would remember forever. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but that's special, and the fact that the program took the time to do that, and it's just one of those feel-good stories. Makes you feel better about humanity. There's also Isaiah Austin. He was a basketball player for Baylor a couple years ago. 2014 draft. He was drafted by the NBA after being diagnosed with I don't remember the sickness that it was, but he couldn't play in the NBA like he was going to be, and the NBA drafted him regardless, and I think gave him some position.
Wow, I didn't know that.
In the association. Wow. So that was a really special day. Excuse me.
Well, one for me is there's a guy named Inky Johnson. I think I've told you about this.
Right.
He played football for Tennessee, so a hated rival for Alabama, but he played football for Tennessee, and just to say, without getting into all the details, he had a very, very, very tough home life. Grew up in an area where you were just as likely to be arrested as graduate high school.
Right.
So, just he pushed himself, and if you have time, go look up his story. But he pushed himself to get an offer, and then when he got an offer to get into school, he pushed himself to be a first-round NFL draft pick, and he was projected and was almost a guarantee to be a first-round NFL draft pick. Well, against Air Force his junior year, so the year he could have left for the draft, he had injury where basically he tore the nerves from his shoulder off, like from his.
Right.
So he's paralyzed in his arm. Well, you work that hard for something, you think, is all over. Give up, be depressed, but instead of doing that, he even talks about how he wouldn't change anything because of the lessons that has taught him, how much stronger as an individual that's made him.
Right.
And he goes around giving speeches about that now. So. That's a guy that, and I actually heard him speak recently.
Yeah. And what was his name for the people?
Inky Johnson.
Inky Johnson. So check that one out. Garrett was telling me about that story, and that's a pretty special thing that he was able to overcome that. The last one that we'll share is one that still kind of, I guess it doesn't really give me chills, but it's one of my favorite all-time sports stories. So you may have heard of this one, but the headline is Foes Carry Softball Player Around Bases After Her First Homer.
I heard about this.
Most people have probably heard about this, but this was in Portland, Oregon, and a player for Western Oregon University hit a home run. It was her first ever, and as she was rounding first base, she tore the ligaments in her knee, and it was about all she could do to crawl back to first base. She couldn't circle the bases, and in baseball or softball, you have to circle all the bases and touch home plate for it to be a home run, so it wouldn't have counted. But two of the opposing players went up to her and carried her, tapping her foot on each base, and took her all the way home to give her her home run. What sportsmanship that is. The fact, yes, your team gave up the home run, but they earned that. And, if it were me and something were to happen to me in that case, that kind of opportunity would, be priceless. And a couple of quotes here. We didn't know that she was a senior or that it was her first home run. So the girls that carried her around the bases didn't know this information that was her first home run. She could have been a slugger for all they cared, but they had the sportsmanship to do this. And that it says here that makes the story more touching. They just wanted to help her, and I think that's special. And then the person that was carried around the bases, Sarah, she said, "I hope I would do the same for any of those girls in the same situation." So a lesson to us all that these college kids were able to express such sportsmanship. Who knows how that affected their season. It may not have affected their season, but that's really special.
Well, I think that's what we forget sometimes is, as much as we love the sports and everything, I forget sometimes is, sportsmanship is important. And I've often heard, and it's probably true from what I know, is, Alabama and Auburn fans just dislike each other, in mostly a fun sense. Sometimes it gets out of hand.
Right.
But, I hear about the players. I've heard the players don't even really dislike each other generally.
Yeah. Most of them grow up
Most
together.
of them grow up together and so, if they can look at it that way.
Yeah. The fans are the people at fault usually. And when the tornadoes went through Tuscaloosa, Auburn people went to help. Mm-hmm. Alabama people have come to Auburn to help Auburn in times of need before. So that's what it boils down to. That's the reason we play sports, is to have fun. And if we can't do that with sportsmanship, there really isn't the point in doing it. So
Then just becomes like the gladiator games.
yeah, Roman Coliseum.
Exactly.
So
Which apparently is the reason why we enjoy sports, but is wrong. That's wrong.
that's wrong. All right, and then a personal story, right quick. The kick six for me, that was probably the most exciting time I've ever experienced in sports, at least as a fan. Just eruption in our house when that happened. You've seen the videos on YouTube and that kind of stuff. That it was a really special time as a fan of that team, playing against Alabama with everything that was at stake, being one of the best Iron Bowls ever. Really special, and I'm happy I was able to get to witness it. As a player, I was never able to win a championship playing basketball, but I've had some enjoyable moments. One time when I was 14, we were in the playoffs, and everything was flowing that day, and so those are probably my favorite memories off of sports. What about you?
It's hard to pin down one, like just one, but I'll always like the 2008 Iron Bowl. It wasn't really a close game, but it was the first Iron Bowl I got to go to.
Oh, cool.
And it broke the streak that Auburn had over Alabama, and I got to go with my dad. So
hey, that's special.
And I had great seats. It was in the lower bowl for once. I think that's the only time I ever sat in the lower bowl.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really neat. But I guess the moral of all this is sports are fun. Keep them in their place. Practice that sportsmanship. It's not worth losing friends over or anything like that. So, but yeah. So that's sports. I'm sure we'll talk about sports sometime in the future, but I thought it was appropriate this week.
You know what we don't talk about enough? Disney.
Yeah, we need to talk about Disney more. No.
Just kidding.
But all right, so it's time for the Clash of the Wits, and if you listen to our last episode, we were having a little debate about who was winning, and I went back and listened, and Justin is up 3-2, and so we'll start with Justin this week. And Justin, what do you got for us?
What be a pirate's favorite letter? R's, you say? Nay, it be the C's that we love.
That is good.
I like the delivery, Justin. That was good. I like the accents. I love his accents. They're funnier than the joke.
And I liked how it went from R to C's. That was great.
I like the misdirection in jokes. I've learned. I'm learning stuff about myself. So. All right, Stephen, can you top it?
So there was this couple going out for an evening on the town. They gotten all ready. They had gotten themselves dressed up, put the cat out, all of the things that they needed to do. Then the taxi arrived. And as the couple came out of the house, the cat shot back into the house, and they didn't want the cat shut in the house, so the wife, she went out to the taxi to wait while the husband went upstairs to chase the cat out. The wife, not wanting it to be known that the house was going to be empty while they were away, told the taxi driver, "Oh, he's just going upstairs to say goodbye to my mother." Well, then a few minutes later, finally the husband got into the cab. He said, "Well, sorry it took so long. The stupid old thing was hiding under the bed, and I had to poke her with a coat hanger to get her to come out."
That was the longest joke we've ever had. That's pretty good too, though.
No, Stephen wins in my book.
Stephen wins
funny.
in your book.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. They both had misdirection. Oh boy.
I can just imagine what the taxi driver's thinking.
That's pretty good. We'll give it to Justin this week.
No. Justin.
I'm sorry, Stephen.
Oh,
I said the wrong name.
Recount. I mean, Justin was good, but
yeah. I'm sorry. We'll give it to Stephen this week. I think that was good. That was creative. So
yeah,
I liked it.
I liked their delivery on it better than ours.
Yeah. That was good. I'm glad that they could join us for those. All right. So my thought is that so let me back up. When I'm thinking about the podcast, oftentimes I'll think about, what do we want to talk about this week? What I would just be thinking when I'm driving down the road, and I'll be like, we could talk about that on the podcast. So I have a running list in my notes app on my phone of things that we can talk about on the podcast, and many of them we have talked about. So that's kind of where I get some of my inspiration from, things that I've just observed in life. And one of those things I was thinking about is the fact that we have first impressions in life. Right, so I go to a job, I have an interview, and I make a first impression. Maybe something a lot less formal. I just go to a new place and meet somebody. My shaking their hand, how I interact with them, that's my first impression. And, you hear it say first impressions are everything, and people put a lot of emphasis on that. But I think that that's kind of bold, and I think that it could be wrong, in my opinion. So
I think it's often wrong.
yeah, let me kind of explain. I would dare to say that there's let's see. I'm reading my notes. How many times in your own life have you been completely authentically yourself in a first impression?
Never.
Yeah, I don't know if I have ever been, and that's not that we're trying to lie to people or anything, but when that pressure comes on, you try to be more formal and you want to be on your best behavior. So this is probably going to be a really short segment, but humans try to be the best that they can be when meeting someone new, but by being someone you're not being the best you can be. I think back to the foolish impressions I've made in my life, and you have grown great friendships off of such foolishness. I think back. I mean, I've made a fool of myself in front of girls, and then have a great friendship with those girls. So I would venture to say be more yourself, and I think those are the best first impressions, and they're a lot less deceiving. Not that you're trying to be deceiving, but
We didn't like each other when we first met.
that wasn't necessarily our first impression. My first impression was probably like, okay, there's another kid.
Yeah, that's good.
But
No, I agree generally. I will say there are certain things that you can tell about a person. I've always heard in job interviews, for example, like they look at your shoes. And they look at your shoes because if you've taken the time to shine your shoes, you at least somewhat show that this is important to you, that you take time to do things. So, no, I think that a lot of times first impression is wrong.
right.
But I also think that a lot of times they're, even if it's not how they're acting, if like their appearance, you can tell things about a person.
Yeah.
So,
and in like an interview, I think that the first impressions, like when you instantly say hello, this is who I am, and then once you have to take off the facade and actually interact with the person, you kind of get to know who they really are. But I guess I more so mean character wise. The aesthetic part, I had trouble saying that word, is it's, you can kind of make whoever you want to be by the clothes you put on and how you conduct yourself. But the character is more so what I mean. If your character seems to be that you're irresponsible or something like that, most of the time, most people aren't that way. I mean, unless they're like a teenage guy. Most teenage guys are pretty irresponsible, speaking from experience. But
I was really responsible.
You were?
No.
I don't know what it is about teenage guys. We're dumb. We are dumb people. But no, so I guess what I wrote in my notes is, so be you and don't be concerned about how your first impression comes across, and don't worry so much about what other people think, as long as you're living a godly life. That's something I struggle with a lot, is wondering, what do people think? With the podcast, I think, what do people think of this? Do they think I'm stupid? Is my laugh dumb? We were talking about that earlier. Yeah. I don't really listen to my laugh until I hear it on the podcast, and now everybody's going to be critiquing my laugh. But,
We wouldn't tell you if we thought it was dumb.
I know, and that's what worries me. All right, Matthew asked, if you weren't an Auburn or Alabama fan, whose fan would you be?
That's a tough question because
That is a tough question.
I've been an Alabama fan since I was. I didn't pick Alabama one day.
It's ingrained in my being.
I don't really think of it like I would have. As of right now, I wouldn't have like a team who's my favorite, but I do have what I would call favorite teams from different conferences. That like when I'm watching other conferences, I pull for them.
Yeah,
just for
I
random reasons. So I'm not gonna go through all those teams, but
right. Well, you can think about maybe one that you can choose, but one of the ones I would probably choose would be, I really like Oregon, and part of the reason I really like Oregon is I like the color yellow. And so I've always been attracted to yellow, but their jerseys, people make fun of them and stuff, but I think it's really cool if that's their thing. They have a different jersey every day, and that's their tradition, is that they have weird jerseys.
Well, sometimes their jerseys are really cool, but sometimes we're like, I'm like, how did you even think of that?
I know, but I appreciate them being daring and trying.
I've always liked Nebraska.
Really? That's one of the teams I've liked the least.
I've always liked Nebraska because they have a lot of history, and I always like fan bases that are really passionate.
Right.
They are very passionate. I mean, and I guess it's because they're in Nebraska and there's nothing else to do.
Nebraska
I mean, we
State.
can say the same thing about Alabama.
Yeah.
But like they pack out their spring games. Yeah. They are really passionate. And they haven't been horrible the last few years, but
Right.
been kind of average, pretty average at best. And they're still very passionate. And they got slaughtered last night.
Yeah.
But
along those lines, the Packers,
mm-hmm.
the Green Bay Packers, I could see myself being a Packers fan if I wasn't, an Auburn fan. I like the Titans in the NFL and the Panthers, but the Packers, they're just like that. I like how they're special. They're unique in the way that they are the smallest pro team,
mm-hmm.
smallest town to have a pro team. So I think that's cool. So good question there, bud.
Way to go, Matthew.
Okay, I'm going to try to pronounce this. This is the best I got. Knowington on SoundCloud. It could be Nonnington. I don't know. But this is somebody on SoundCloud.
You know who it is?
I messaged the person on SoundCloud to see if I could find out. As far as I know, I haven't gotten a reply, so I don't know who that is as of now. If you do know us, please let us know. We'd love to know that you listen. But this person asked, I don't know why I called him or her a she, but the entire Word of God is important. However, what's your favorite book of the Bible, or what's your favorite gospel? I think let's go with the whole book of the Bible. What's your favorite book? Putting you on the spot here. There's a lot to choose from.
I like the book of Hebrews a lot because
that's some meat.
It's a very logically written book. He makes arguments all throughout the book, and I like how he draws from Old Testament ideas and shows how the New Testament's even better. It's just really well written book. So I guess Hebrews for me, even though there are some very complicated things in there.
Yeah. I like Ecclesiastes a lot. That's one of them. And Proverbs. For some reason, that practicality to me, where I can see these things in my day-to-day life, I like that a lot. Besides those, let's see. I like James a lot. James is one of my favorites. All right, so good question there. Thank you for that question. And again, let us know if we know you. Gable asked, what's your favorite Christmas song? And he gave the clarification, apart from anything having to do with Christ being born on Christmas, of course. If you don't know us, we don't celebrate Christmas as Jesus' birthday. Those that do celebrate Christmas, Garrett, you do it for, just the fact that it's a holiday. And so it's just time to be with family. But favorite Christmas song? Mine is probably, let me think. The one about my grown-up Christmas wish.
Yeah, I like that one.
That's probably one of my favorites.
I have no idea, honestly.
No idea.
I listen to a lot of them.
I love Christmas music.
I love Christmas music.
Yeah.
But naming a favorite's tough. Because seriously, there's so many that I'm like, yeah, I like that song.
Let It Snow is a good one.
Yeah.
Classic.
What's that one where Mariah Carey sings?
All I Want for Christmas Is
No, I like that one, but the other one.
The other one, I don't remember.
The Snow's Coming Down, I think is what it's called. I like that one. It's good music.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
almost
know.
that time, man. It's good. Along with that.
Well, my fiance's already listening to it. So.
Oh, really? Well, along with that time of year is rolling upon us. Here in a couple of weeks, it'll be Thanksgiving. Then just a little bit longer, and it'll be Christmas. So some exciting things on the show. We're going to have 2 exciting guests on the show around that time frame. So we're excited about that. So look forward to that. Hopefully we'll be more involved in your life at that time. I mean, I'll have a little bit more time, and you'll have more time to listen. So we're going to try to get some content out for you at that time. So, okay, Will Harris on Facebook. Do you like Thanksgiving or Christmas better, and why? Mine would be Thanksgiving. Dude, that food. Stuffing. I love it.
Probably Christmas, but I think I've talked to you about this before. Christmas Day is fun. Christmas morning's fun.
Yeah, we've had this conversation on the podcast.
Have we?
Yeah.
But it's more about the leading up to Christmas that I really like.
It's the anticipation.
It's the anticipation, and everybody's in a good mood. Yeah, right. I remember talking about this now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Christmas would be mine. But not necessarily just because of Christmas Day, just the hype and everything. So.
Right. So Christmas. All right.
Yeah.
We did get a iTunes review, and this is from Vicky Go, which I know one Vicky that listens to the show, and that would be Steven's mom. Vicky Russell. So I believe that's who it is, but it may not be. Anyway, her title, love it, with 5 stars. So we really appreciate that. And she gave the comment, I really enjoy listening and am waiting for more. Excuse me. We need more entertainment like this. Keep it up. And she has up in quotation marks because we're all about the
upside up.
Yeah,
that's clever.
Thanks, Miss Vicky. If that's who you are. If it's not who you are, then
thank you anyway.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for that. And we have over 1,000 listens on the show.
Almost 1,100 now, right?
Probably. So that is really exciting. We really want to thank y'all for that. That means a lot to us. It means a lot to me. I didn't know if anybody would care to listen to my voice. I don't, but it's been awesome to.
Now, what if I've listened 975 times? So that...
Well, I've looked at the stats, and that's not true. So. But if you were the only one that listened to it, I'd like to say I'd still do it, but that's not true. Sorry, buddy.
That saddens me.
It's okay. So now it's time for the best advice in the world. And this week we've got, the question is, what's the best ways to overcome stage fright?
Don't prepare.
I would agree. Don't prepare.
Because if you're going to overthink it.
Right.
And you're going to overthink it, and then you got to learn to ad-lib stuff. Don't prepare yourself.
If you want to be a good public speaker like Donald Trump, do not prepare ahead of time. And I think that's pretty evident.
And I mean, there is not a better public speaker than Donald Trump, right? I mean, the
100%.
thoughts that come out of his mouth are just totally natural.
They are.
And coherent.
Yeah.
So, yes, I like that.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm full of advice. My advice, though, would be if you get up on stage and you make a fool of yourself, everyone's going to laugh. And you might think that's embarrassing, but it's really an opportunity. You could become a comedian. So I would say make a fool of yourself.
Right. I mean, don't worry about making a fool of yourself. Don't even think about it. Just make a fool of yourself.
That's right. And become a comedian. Right. Everyone has a little comedian in them. Well, we want to thank Katie for her excellent work writing and playing our music. She does a fantastic job. So a big shout out to her as always. Shout out to Kevin. Thank you for helping us record that music. I want to thank Justin and Steven for joining us today with those jokes.
Hey, and I just wanted to comment. Those were both high quality.
They were.
I mean, good job, guys.
And I think that the way we kind of changed the format, I think that helps them. So
yeah,
that was good. I love Justin's accent. Steven, I didn't know when we were going to get to the punchline. That was wow. That was long. But no, they were very good. We appreciate those jokes.
I can just relate to the taxi driver, and that's why I put Steven.
And working with the public,
you can't see my face, but I can just see myself being like, and not saying anything because it's none of my business, but
it's so funny. Yeah. Good job, Steven, and good job, Justin. I mean, but those are probably 2 of the best jokes we've had on the show, so we want to thank them for that. We want to thank our editors and team members, Caleb, Joshua, and Corbin, for their help. Corbin will be home soon, so we'll have to, we'll enjoy seeing him, and he'll be here when we record, hopefully. So
I forgot about him. No, I'm just kidding.
I love that guy, so we really appreciate his help, and hope he's doing well at college. I personally want to thank you, Garrett, for joining me today, and
you're welcome.
Putting up with my stumbling over my words. People, I am sorry. This is like 2 weeks in a row. I'm out of practice or something. Please pardon me. But we want to thank y'all for listening. Over 1,000 listens. That means a lot to me. Means a lot to everyone here, I think. So we really appreciate that. Remember to stay upside up in this upside down world. And if you're still listening, stay tuned in every episode until it actually ends. Caleb does some work for us that puts bloopers at the end. So if we have any this week, I don't know if we do, they'll be there. So make sure to stay around for that. Have a great week, guys.
Bye.